Now, we're going to move into another interesting part of the subconscious mind. It's called the storytelling brain. And what we're going to discuss is stress. And what we're not going to discuss is exercise, eating right, and getting enough sleep. We all know that's a great way to manage stress. What we are going to do is we're going to look how the brain works under stress and why we get stressed out. It's good to have those tools to manage stress, but how about we develop some tools to just not get stressed? Once we understand how this machine works, it's actually pretty easy. So like I said, the neocortex, newest part of the brain. The limbic system, older part of the brain. Oldest part of the brain is reptilian complex. So the limbic system, it's the conscious mind, does all the thinking. Neocortex is the subconscious mind. Our librarian stores all the information that we need. The reptilian complex, all it is, it's basically a chemical control room. All the things we don't think about, adrenal response, breathing, heart rate, digestion, that's all covered by our primitive brain. And we also learned that the conscious and subconscious mind don't really get along with each other. And we learned how powerful it is with our language, and that the fact that the subconscious mind just simply ignores words. We also learned the power of visualization. And visualization will really tie in to why we get stressed out. And we learned that visualization is not only for training, but it's also for our personal success. So with all these fundamentals of what we've learned, we're now going to figure out that besides the subconscious mind and the conscious mind and the reptilian complex, we have another program hidden in there. It's called the rumination mind, but today we're going to call it the storytelling brain because it's much easier to understand what that program is all about. And the fact is that program is directly linked to our stress. And just to ensure that we're all on the same page of what we're talking about, I'm going to read the actual definition of stress that we're going to move forward with. A state of mental or emotional strain or tension resulting from adverse or very demanding circumstances. I hate to read from a slide, but we've got to get this out the way so we understand we're talking about the same thing. Now, there are some natural chemical responses that occur in the body due to stress. Your body releases 3 chemicals when you get stressed out: adrenaline, epinephrine, and cortisol. Adrenaline and epinephrine are high-level stimulants. It's a complex chemical chain. Your body has a very limited supply of these. Cortisol is made from amino acids. Your body can make as much of it as you want. And that's key to understand, that the 2 stimulants are in limited supply. Cortisol, it's just going to bind amino acids together to make the cortisol. When we get under stress, and the more stress we are under, the higher these become, these are some natural reactions. So auditory exclusion, some people will lose their hearing. So if you're designing an emergency response plan and part of your thing is to yell at somebody not to do something, get rid of it. They don't hear it. How many people will yell at their dog when the dog's chasing a cat? Does your dog stop? No. Why? He's got auditory exclusion. He's in pure predatory mode. He is not hearing anything. Hunters, any hunters in the room? How loud is your rifle at the range? Loud. How loud is your rifle when you get to shoot a nice big buck? Don't hear it. Auditory exclusion. The brain is simply like, hey, we're visual. That's why we see in color. Hearing's not important. We're going to ignore that. Increased heart rate. Let's put it this way. If any of you were to come up here and present, what kind of symptoms would you experience? Increased heart rate, maybe some indigestion, maybe heavy breathing, maybe some dry mouth, some sweating underneath the armpits. That's all the effects of stress, and they're all normal. Your body has enough adrenaline and epinephrine in its adrenal glands for 48 hours of stress, 48 hours of constant stress, which is amazing of an evolutionary aspect because you think about it, would this caveman need to run for 2 days from this elephant to survive? No. So the adrenal glands actually have this huge surplus of adrenaline and epinephrine. But what's amazing is we suffer from long-term stress. So we actually dry or use up our adrenaline and epinephrine stores in our adrenal glands because our environment right now is actually quite stressful for us. And there's some signs of long-term stress. The body reacts a very specific way the moment that we have long-term stress. And long-term stress is directly linked to an elevated cortisol level. Cortisol's role in the body is to shut down things that are not important for immediate survival. It will shut down digestion, it'll shut down your pancreas, it'll shut down your liver, and it'll shut down your immune system. Because while that elephant's chasing you, that's not important. That's cortisol's role. So think about it. If you have elevated cortisol levels for a long time, that's really bad for you. Here are some of the signs. Hair loss. Some stressed out people back here. Unknown muscular pain. There's no method of injury. But somebody's shoulder hurts, somebody's back hurts, somebody's neck hurts. For a lot of people, it becomes chronic, where they will go see massage therapists, chiropractors, and everybody else, and they just can't fix the problem. It has nothing to do with an injury. It has everything to do with elevated cortisol levels in the body. We experience it when we get slightly stressed, that we get tense. But imagine somebody that's now long-term. Digestion. Cortisol's role is to shut this unit down. Stomach ulcers, gastritis, irritable colon, decreased muscle, and decreased organ growth. You're putting food in, it's not getting digested properly, your body starts to catabolize itself. Just because we have elevated cortisol. What happens to the brain? Insomnia, irritability, anxiety, depression, decreased learning potential, decreased memory, decreased intelligence. If you're caught in this cycle, how much stress are you experiencing? You go to work, you don't think as well, you're not as smart as you should be, so you get more stress at work. Then you come home, you're irritable, that's stressful for everybody. Then you go to sleep, and you can't sleep. So then the next day, where do you wake up on your stress scale? You went from a 5 to a 6, and then the next day you move from a 6 to a 7. Each and every time, and this is not happening because that you're, I'm going to say it's going to sound weird, this is not happening because you're stressed, this is happening because of an elevated cortisol level. Eczema, psoriasis, increased sensitivity to pain, all effects of long-term stress. Mouth ulcers, excessive dryness of the mouth, long-term stress. Cardiovascular disease, hypertension, increased heart rate, and increased blood pressure, all effects of long-term stress. I know I'm Captain Buzzkill, but this will get better, okay? And the long-term stress is also found to exacerbate asthmatic conditions in people. And it is all the fault of the storytelling brain.